artificial intelligence and Gen Z at work, friend or foe. It's quite a fitting podcast to almost end the year on for us, because we've spoken a lot about different generations, about technology, about how that's evolved over time. But interestingly enough, there's still quite a lot of manual process in it. But where's it going to go? Where's it going to go, Robbie? That's the kind of like topic of discussion today, isn't it?
Definitely. I think a lot of this friend or foe, it depends on what side of the fence you're on.
Yeah.
I think the more established generation.
Oh, okay, yeah. People such as myself. Millennials?
A little bit more than that.
Okay, baby boomers?
Yeah, probably more like baby boomers who are used to things being quite manual and set in their ways. Probably look at AI and think you're just cheating, you're just taking a shortcut, you're cutting corners. Whereas I think Gen Z and millennials probably more so.
Yeah.
Are kind of looking at it going, this is how we can optimise and make it more efficient. I think there is this fine line between optimising processes and kind of taking out a lot of the legwork, and then also going too far with it where you kind of rely on the automation. I kind of throw it back to because funny enough, talking about it in the office this morning, they say one of the first jobs they predict will be in insurance underwriting.
Really?
Because the way that the models are built, the decisioning process that goes into do we give a loan or not is already quite automated.
Yeah.
Obviously, for specialist cases, it will remain the case where it's quite manual.
So it's not like it was back in the 80s, maybe even the 90s, but 80s, particularly in the 70s, we'd go into a bank, and maybe not so much insurance, or maybe even insurance as well. So I've got this car that I've bought. Can you insure me? And the fella behind there, he's got his pinstripe suit on and his glasses. He's like, no worries, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah,
kind of do
takes
the
that
check.
Human error, right?
Yeah, exactly. But then I think the flip side of it is, well, what if you have these specialist cases where you've got, a 19-year-old millionaire that's just bought a Porsche and wants to insure it?
Yeah.
The AI will say no chance because it doesn't fit the criteria, but then a specialist insurance lender will say, well, hang on a minute, the guy's absolutely caked, so
yeah,
if it does write it off, you've got the money to cover it anyway. So
computer says no, but it's still kind of ways and means around it. Interestingly enough, so my friend, my brother actually, he works with my friend who have their own kind of insurance brokers, and they only do performance vehicles, modified vehicles. But they've started to get into this realm of that, funnily enough. So it's all more like if you're a celebrity or a sports figure or something like that, you've got a lot of money very quickly, but you may have only been driving 6 months.
Yeah.
But if you're bringing in 20 million a week, a month, a year, whatever, and you want to get a Lamborghini, Ferrari, right, that's like 200 grand. It's like, well, like you say, if he smashes it up, he's got enough money to cover it, right?
Yeah.
So his premiums might be massive. It could be like £20,000-30,000 a year. But for him or them, it could just be like, well, whatever, I want my Lamborghini.
Yeah. The percentage that they're paying towards their insurance premium is probably actually less of a percentage than someone that's 18 just past their driving test, or 17 just past their driving test,
a Ford
to get
Fiesta
a
Mark
Fiesta.
III.
Gets a Ford Fiesta Mark III, and they're paying $2,000 with a black box.
Mate, do you know what?
And
so
that's percentage of their wage is probably maybe 20%, 30% at that age.
Probably. So when I passed my driving test, it was a radiant red, and it wasn't radiant red anymore. It was more like a pink because it was old anyway. Faded. Mark III Ford Fiesta. That was it. It was lowered, 65 mil. It had black tints on it that were practically illegal at the front. It's massive exhaust on it. But it was like a 1.1 litre engine.
That's the best thing. They done 0 to 60 in about 3 weeks.
Yeah, it does 0 to 60 eventually. That was kind of it. It did 0 to 60 eventually.
It did 0 to 60 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And we had to get it insured. And a third party, and bearing in mind this is like what? It's like 20 years ago now, I suppose. Well, wow, I can say that. It was 20 years ago. And it was £900 third party fire and
20 years ago as well.
20 years ago. So what's that nowadays? I don't know. Call it $2,000 maybe.
Yeah.
How much does it cost for kids to get insured on cars nowadays? I don't even know.
It's a joke. My brother pays. I think his was like 2.5.
Really?
For a Ford Fiesta.
Oh my god. How much is the car? It's not like tens of thousands, is it?
No. Maybe
so you're right,
7 or 8.
proportionally.
Yeah, 7 or 8 grand for the car.
So he's, like you said, proportionally, he's paying a lot more for a Fiesta than you would do if you had a Lamborghini, you had tons of money in the bank.
Yeah.
Even though it's technically more, but...
Yeah, exactly. If you're paying probably 5% of your wages, if you're like a footballer.
Yeah.
Premier League footballer at 20, that's like a Jude Bellingham, for example,
good choice.
Earns more money than Most 20-year-olds, that's for sure. It goes, I'm going to spend $100,000 a year on insuring a Lamborghini.
Yeah, because I've got a Lamborghini.
Yeah, it's 1% of what I bring in.
Yeah.
My brother paying $2,000 for a Ford Fiesta. It's going. That's more like 10%.
Yeah,
20% of what I'm earning.
Unbelievable, but it is like, I think from a work perspective now, it is changing. The dynamics changing. There's a lot of fear that is kind of going on, but I think that's more scaremongering of the unknown, and that maybe has been driven by more of an older generation of folk. I
think a lot of that comes from media as well, because I think the way that they report things now is a lot more sensationalised than maybe historically, because everything's more global, you see it more.
Yeah.
You didn't hear about what was going on in San Francisco when you worked in Lloyd's of London.
No.
In the 30s, 40s.
No, I suppose you wouldn't. And if you did, it was in a newspaper.
Yeah, it was in a newspaper after it happened.
Yeah, like 3 weeks later. So, no, it's definitely completely changed. I do like this idea that I think the younger generation get a bad rap, unfortunately. They've had a really quite tricky couple of years during COVID, and there is lots of different stats to kind of show that their attitudes are slightly different to things, are a bit more kind of reserved, but they're very tech savvy. They've been literally lived with it and been born with it ultimately, and it's just evolution. That's all it's kind of coming down to. And I think the problem maybe is we're getting too clever for it. And even I was listening to that podcast with Joe Rogan and Elon Musk, and they were talking about AI, and Elon Musk is saying it's getting out of hand, and where it can go is completely out of hand.
Yeah.
And it needs to be regulated and X, Y, and Z, because it is kind of fear of the unknown, because we've gone well past, it's the internet and we can now talk to each other online. It's like, whatever. Yeah. We're going well past that now. So I can see why it can be quite a daunting thing. But I do like this idea that where could they actually take it? They've grown with it and developed with it. We're just trying to learn backwards from it, from our experience. They're actually kind of going to push it forward.
Yeah.
So I think that's quite an interesting concept.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think specifically for Gen Z as well, the big battle that they face is a lot of the work that AI can do now in terms of optimising processes is a lot of those entry-level jobs. Whereas I've come out of university, and whether it's good or bad, I just kind of need to learn the industry and what we actually do in my job. And a lot of that is quite mundane tasks to begin with. So I think it changes. I think that's the part that it changes. I mean, just looking at the statistics here, Race, I think 76% of Gen Z workers express concerns about AI overshadowing entry-level jobs from McKinsey and Forbes. What does that then mean to someone that's kind of goes to university, doing whatever they are, comes out of university, and the typical kind of entry-level jobs that are quite analytical and quite mundane tasks until you
administration
kind of
heavy.
Quite administration heavy. If they are then removed because we can get AI to do it in 1/10 of the time with almost 99% accuracy, whatever it may be, how does that then change the landscape for people getting into work? And because you can't come in at as an experienced head, does it mean that you then have to go to university for longer to then learn more skills that you'd need to be more of a senior person in that field? Or does it mean that we kind of change it where you have more strategic roles at an earlier level?
Potentially. I think also this must happen in most generations of things, right? I can always remember when you talk to your grandparents and they say about school, and they just go and get a job, get secure, get an income, craft a trade, and do that kind of thing. So if you're a plumber, if you work in the city, be a banker, all this, start at the bottom, work your way through, and just learn around you. That's it. So you got to do, isn't it? Just be a sponge, make sure people like you. You turn up, you say your please and thank yous, and just get on with it. And that kind of mentality's changed a hell of a lot since then. But I can imagine this happens all the time, because all these markets and this evolution is happening so rapidly. I think it's up to us who actually are currently working to go, well, what are the opportunities then? So AI needs to be an ally rather than this kind of scary Terminator 2, Skynet, taking over the world attitude. It totally could. The Earth can totally spin out of orbit tomorrow. Could. So let's focus on what we can control with it, and how do we actually support these young people coming through to actually better use this technology to a benefit. And that's where new jobs can be created. And actually, Evereaty's been very kind to actually give us a couple of these new collar jobs, and I quite like this idea. AI ethics officers, AI trainers. It makes sense. So it's like, right, we know nothing about this then, so let's get people to actually learn and educate themselves and how the best these technologies can be used. It's like developers. Do you think a developer was knocking about in the 70s the way they are today? No chance. No chance. Same sort of mentality. It's scary. It's changing the way we're doing things, but it's there to support and enhance. And let's face it, you think about it as a country of hundreds of millions of people across the planet as well. So what do we all do then? What do we all do? So technology takes over everything. We don't have to do anything more. So what, we're going to have 7-8 billion people on the planet just knocking around?
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
No, because what happens when it doesn't go right and
yeah,
it doesn't put out the right results and it doesn't do the work that we need it to.
Society in that sense, I just can't see a world where that can happen.
No.
And I don't think this is kind of like what we've heard before of like the internet, that will never take off. I don't see that part of it.
It's definitely here to stay. I think we've gone past the point of
no return
now. I mean,
catch out of the bag, right?
Yeah, ChatGPT come along. It's like, okay, yeah, that's pretty cool. Like what it can do. Let's see how it goes. Whereas now it's like most people you speak to, it's an everyday tool.
Yeah.
You know, we were saying
it was just a brainchild, wasn't it?
Yeah. You know, we're saying, what does that mean for people that are doing exams because it passed the bar, it passed the medical.
Isn't it what you think? You said it to me. Isn't there a company that's literally being run by ChatGPT or some sort of AI? You said it. Someone told me this.
No, I think Chipotle.
Chipotle, like the sauce.
No, like the restaurant.
Oh right.
Are going to set up AI restaurants that use AI.
Yeah.
And robotics and RPA that effectively you put an order. They're going to still have fewer people that will then get paid higher because there's less people in the stores, but the bulk of what will happen will be automated.
I like it.
I don't know if it's specific. I don't know if it's all AI, or I think a lot of it is more just automation. Where, in effect, you go on the app, you say, I want this, and this. You pay. That feeds it into the information. It then goes through a conveyor belt in the kitchen. There's no chefs. It goes through the conveyor belt where everything's cooked to order, made. It goes out the door.
Have you ever seen Back to the Future 2?
No.
No?
My pop culture references are bad.
Really?
Probably seen highlights.
No,
we've been through this a lot. I watch films like Match of the Day.
I know, but you've got to watch these films. So Marty McFly, and there's
from Back to the Future 1.
From Back to the Future 1 and 2 and 3. He's in all 3. But the second one is when they actually go into the future, right? And I can't remember the year. I think it's like 2013.
Really?
Yeah, I'm sure it's 2013. You have to just double check that for me.
I'm gonna go.
Might be a bit later, maybe 2015. Anyway, it's a year that's already kind of gone past us now. And there's this scene where the mum is in her kitchen, right? And they're going, we're ordering Pizza Hut. And she gets this little foil packet that yay big. She puts it in the microwave and it cooks it and it comes out 5 seconds later as a big old pizza. And it sits on the table and they all kind of eat. And you kind of think, that is just well beyond anything for even at that time. But that's kind of what we're saying. Maybe not exactly like that, but that whole idea of you don't actually have to... You have to input now. You just have to input and then it spits out your kind of result. That's quite a crazy cool thing.
Yeah, 2015.
2015?
They go to 2015.
They go to 2015?
Yeah, 2015, yeah.
Hoverboards, flying cars?
Yeah.
Mad.
We did have hoverboards in 2015. Probably not as they pictured it. They were just basically really...
I think they were trying to push it at that time, weren't they?
Yeah, just the two wheels. And
I think that's kind of where segways and stuff really started picking up.
Yeah, that's what... Segways, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Because they were originally called hoverboards when they came out, weren't they? But
I'm pretty sure they did actually make a hoverboard and Tony Hawk's actually tried it. I'm sure something like that kind of happened.
It's just something like the Red Bull group would do.
Yeah, potentially.
But yeah. Yeah, I think that's the big thing though, right? It's looking at the future, and I really like the phrase as well. Those you could have blue collar jobs, white collar jobs, and they've evolved.
Yeah,
over the years massively, and it is these new collar jobs where I think it was maybe a job counsellor, career counsellor in secondary school said it's like half of the. You think about what you want to do today, half of the jobs that you'll be doing in the future won't even exist now.
Yeah.
Just because of the way that the world is going, that you kind of go to, pick your A-levels and GCSEs and university to do a job in 10 years' time that probably doesn't even exist now.
That's true.
Especially over longer periods of time, we talk about different generations. When think back to maybe 40, 50, 60 years ago.
Yeah.
People are going, okay, I can go work for the local bank. There isn't these, fintechs only just arrived in the last 10 years.
Decade, yeah, properly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now it seems like startups are popping up
left, right,
every
centre.
day.
Yeah.
So the world is constantly kind of changing, and kind of throwing it back to developers, right? It was people that were just interested in computers and technology as kids that have gone on to then, make it their career.
Yeah.
And once it becomes mainstream, then everyone does it. And now if someone says, I'm going to be a developer, you're not just
you and everyone else, buddy.
Yeah, it's like you're not just the kid in the library at lunch on the computer. Like it is a mainstay kind of job now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely interesting, and I don't think it will steal jobs.
I don't think it will steal jobs. I think like it will. It will change jobs definitely, and I think even the way of work will change because of it, and how we engage with these technologies is probably the way I could see it is where the value will be. So if you're an early adopter and you know coding and you know how to interact with AI and you know the kind of limitations of what it can kind of do to a benefit, that's quite revolutionary at the minute. So I think if you're on that kind of upward curve and thinking, right, how can AI improve things? I mean, just not talking about just creating profit for companies and that kind of stuff. Think about it even just from an economic perspective, from like a sustainability perspective. There's so many things it could potentially do, and we're seeing it even within the whole kind of biotech healthcare sphere, where companies now don't have to kind of spend years and billions in wet labs because the data's already there. And then you can run programs to kind of go, right, based on everything we already know, what the likelihood of these outcomes or this working, or how could we adapt this? And it's already thinking about it 24/7 because we keep feeding it. So
yeah, I think that's the big thing,
how you
right?
interact with it, I think, is the big change is going to come.
And I think a big part of it is it can only, especially things like ChatGPT and that side of things, it can only predict based on the information it already has.
I've said to you the other day, it's limited. It's already limited though, isn't it? It's definitely limited compared to the start of the year.
Yeah.
So remember, you could ask it a question, pretty much anything, apart from anything that's really damaging or
I think it's got like certain rules, like it won't tell you how to
create bombs
and things like that.
Yeah, and it wouldn't do anything what we'd class as evil, I suppose.
Yeah.
But if you try even very generically to do things like we did the other day to try and get lists of companies and this, that, and the other for what we do, it almost doesn't like it anymore. It's almost like, no, I can't give you that, sorry.
Yeah.
But that's being programmed, it's been told to do that still.
Yeah.
So maybe this whole idea of regulation has already started.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it can only pull from the information that is out there, right?
Yeah.
So if we all said, look, no one do anything, just get AI to do it all, you'd get to the point where if no one is creating at the forefront, how can it then pull from that information?
Isn't that where machine learning comes in though?
Yeah, that's the bit that kind of loses me. You're a lot more technically knowledgeable about this. But
I say that, and I'm no expert of this, and this is something I think my dad was chatting about when I went to see him a couple of months ago. And he was talking about, it might have been Google or some sort of place in the Silicon Valley that have got had a warehouse of robots ultimately, and they were tasked. Let's say it was 100 robots, right? And they were tasked of picking up a tin can, like Heinz baked beans, off the floor and put it on the shelf. That was it. They had 100 of these different robots all doing the same thing, trying to do it. And each day went past, it kind of got a little bit better. They understood how to kind of grasp it, how to pick it up, how to lift it, but couldn't really get it on the shelf. But what ended up happening is they were all kind of learning from each other. So slowly, one would figure it out and then the rest would figure it out. So it would get a little bit more. And there was a profound moment that happened where the robot literally picked up the can, put it on the shelf like that, and it was almost immediate. All the rest of them knew how to do it.
Really?
Yeah. They all knew.
That is quite scary.
Yeah.
And all I can imagine is the scene from iRobot with Will Smith.
Yeah. But I think they shut it down after that.
Really?
I think they shut it down. This is going too far because we couldn't control that flow of information once that one robot figured it out how to do it. Yeah. It was almost like it was a hive mind. And it was
that is really scary. Yeah. I'm going to struggle sleeping. All I can think is, right, imagine if it just threw the can.
Yeah.
And it was, that's quite funny. because it would be.
Yeah.
If a robot threw a can during the testing at someone.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you've got 100 robots that now know how to throw cans.
Yeah.
And you can't, once it's out there, you can't
bring it back in.
Yeah, that is. The people that they're obviously super intelligent, right, to kind of create these programs and this machine learning. But how do you then control it? To sort of say, well,
I think this is kind of what they were talking about.
There isn't a kill switch. It's not like you can just press a red button.
No.
It's not like the president can press a red button and everything gets wiped out.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there is an answer. I think that's why they're so fearful of it, and that's why is it a friend or foe really? Because once you rely on it too much, the game's over.
Yeah,
and I think that's kind of where a lot of people that are way more intelligent than I are already starting to think about, to kind of go, the limitations are nearly impossible, but what happens when it can supersede anything we've ever thought? And we can't control it, and then what?
Yeah, that all comes down to the ethical side of it as well, and the regulation. I personally think regulation is super important.
So maybe that's where it does go, and that was definitely a title we've got written down here in terms of an ethics officer and trainers.
Yeah,
and it's
I think you'll have compliance
around
it.
Yeah,
yeah, you will have legal compliance matters around it, because if it's like anything, if you can. People always find a way to use it for crime. Yeah. Right? You've already seen it now with, the phone scams where it's just...
oh, my God, yeah.
Where it can predict... It can listen to what you say and then spit out an answer to try and get your personal information or get you to send your passport or whatever it may be.
I was telling Ben the other day that I saw this one thing come up on my phone. And obviously, as you talk about things, it listens, right, anyway. Yeah. And it took a photo that it just ripped off social media of... I can't remember what it was, like a young woman, right? And then she just was talking about blogging around makeup or something like that, right? They managed to kind of AI her face onto like this avatar, take her voice, and then make her look and sound exactly like her and say pretty much whatever she wanted to say. Yeah. But it wasn't actually the human doing it.
Yeah, that's where it's scary.
That's where it's scary, because then what's the truth anymore?
Yeah.
And then all this stuff that we're doing on Teams and Zoom and all this interaction we're doing with technology, looking at, oh yeah, I'm speaking to so-and-so in Singapore or Japan or whatever. Yeah. It's like, you might not be. That might actually be a robot super impersonating somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, you go to sign into your bank.
Yeah.
Yeah. Though, because that's the dark side of it. I think they're using that for, they were talking about using that to recreate Paul Walker's voice in the Fast and Furious film.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, didn't they?
They used his brother, didn't they?
Yeah, they used his brother and then kind of
mucked around his face.
Yeah, basically did a little bit of CGI, but
they did in Star Wars as well, didn't they? Who's the fella who's like the commander? Oh my God, he's an older fella. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
They did a whole kind of AI piece on him as a virtual.
Yeah, and they did it for Mark Hamill as well in the series to make him younger.
That's it. But they took all his audio that he's ever done. It wasn't just the Star Wars films; it was the other films as well that he actually created. And they basically got him to talk this dialogue in Star Wars, but he died like 10 years ago. But it sounded and looked enough like him that if you weren't to the trained eye who's like a geek like me goes, that's CGI, you'll just go, oh my God, like that's him. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's using it, well, you say for good, but then there's a whole thing around, well, is his family been compensated and there, but you could, just take actors from now that in 50 years time won't be around and say we've got the original Han Solo because we can use AI to
regenerate
use all the lines effectively do that.
I think, Joe, where we started to see this kind of trend with what is it when you can buy pixels? It's like not it's like a digital kind of certificate ultimately.
Okay, yeah. NFTs.
NFT, thank you. So I've seen this with NFT. So Ronaldo's got an NFT, hasn't he? So all these CSM stuff, that's all got an NFT. So no matter what happens to him, he owns the rights to that forever because he has the original certificate for it, right? The code for it, whatever. And I don't think it's found its place in the world yet. But I've always said this.
It seemed to be up here, and then it just dropped off. Yeah, I think the value have dropped off massively.
I think the value's dropped off. It's probably just too ahead of its time. But when you think about it, it probably works really well in like an artistic kind of world, right? So if you create a painting, you're an actor, you're a songwriter, whatever it may be, people can't then superimpose you later on. So I own that original. I own my voice. You cannot use my voice. You can't impersonate. You can't use my face.
Yeah.
And I've got a digital kind of signature that says that. I think that's kind of where that can end up going.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's definitely how it will go with the maybe not NFTs as we know them
now, but something else.
But that premise of I own this, you can't use that image. You can, and then it'll be a case of saying royalties for. No different to as at the moment. You said it's copyrighted. You just all you're effectively doing is copywriting your own image and your own voice.
So that's where it could go. So we're talking now, like we said, about houses, road deeds, their manual, all the bonds that were kind of there. They could literally be now digitized, but then verified under like some NFT that's super encrypted, that is unique, and that's kind of where the value will be. Which is so out there. It's so out there, but it can exist. And so if we kind of bring this back a little bit into jobs and where that could actually mean for people, there's a couple here that we can definitely talk through that could end up being jobs for the future ultimately. It's AI ethics. I'm just going to read this out. Mm-hmm. The role of an AI ethics is to ensure the responsibility and ethical usage of AI technologies. Their work is crucial in addressing issues for bias, transparency and fairness as AI becomes increasingly integrated into our daily lives. The demand for AI ethics is soaring and ethical AI takes centre stage in the discovery of AI technologies. So it's almost what I was kind of saying, right? Like that's a role. That's a team of people. That's a whole piece on its own.
Yeah, massive.
AI trainers, I think it should speak for itself, but it's how we kind of fine tune systems, how we can use it in customer services and how we can keep learning, how we keep up with their learning, I suppose, and then best use it in like a more structured way. Yeah. Auditors, AI auditors. I mean, this is really out there.
I think this is already hit.
It says
in terms of we use automation and AI to give us a result.
Yeah.
But then even I've ever found it right. I need to pull some data together. So you kind of go to ChatGPT, find me these people, this company. I still go on. I still check it manually just because I don't trust it.
You have to check it.
Yeah, you have to check it because otherwise you're. It's not accurate enough, and all it takes is one to be wrong, and
it causes big upset.
Causes a bigger issue.
So
but there will be a case of the process is done there, and then all it takes is someone who knows what they're looking at to look through it and go right, correct, almost like a remediation or almost like a checklist to kind of go, that's right, confirm, send.
Yeah. Ultimately, interesting, isn't it?
So you're not having to do the data entry or run the processes, but you're making sure that the answer that you get is right.
Yeah, it talks here to say it's unbiased, accurate, and can comply with legal requirements in some jurisdictions, which makes kind of good sense. AI data privacy managers. I think this kind of already exists. It just takes an evolution, right?
Yeah, this will be the next step to what they're already doing.
Yeah.
AI urban planner and climate change analyst.
Interesting, eh?
Yeah, that's certainly a wicked job title.
So this is a real controversial thing, I think, because some humans don't believe climate change is even a thing. So they could be told actual fact and still deny it and still go, nah, like rubbish. So it'd be interesting to see how that one comes through, because if AI categorically says it is a myth or it's not, would you still believe it? Probably not. No, but that's a really interesting one.
Yeah, no, exactly.
But it should do. It talks about, what did I watch the other day? It's about these guys in Antarctica, and they just dig holes, right? And they dig this great big hole, and they're trying to like get out ice that's hundreds of thousands of millions of years old, and they're analysing the ice to see what it's made up of, and it's almost like to see where we've kind of come from.
Yeah.
Suppose if you're taking all this kind of data and using AI to build dashboards and algorithms and things, it could probably actually tell you a lot more about our history than we've ever kind of learned. So that could easily play quite an interesting part in our search for the truth and where we've all kind of come from.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's interesting. This next one, I think, is a massive one. AI cyber security analyst. Yeah, because I think that'll be the next level. Is if you can use. I think there will. I think that's the way that the world will go in terms of you won't be, gone are the days of World War II where you've got hundreds of thousands of people in trenches facing each other, and
Yeah.
you know, we've seen it, right, in terms of how the world has gone and war has gone, and I think it will be AI.
Yeah. Well,
It will be technology.
Yeah. Well, countries that are being completely bombarded by other countries from a cybersecurity thing every single day, every single hour, every single day. They're trying to hack something, and they're going to be using it for their reasons, and then we're going to have to use it for our own. It's just the same thing. It's just an absolute evolution of what's kind of happening.
And if you're a country that doesn't have
security,
AI, you know, if you're just using humans versus AI, you know, you're kind of facing a very difficult uphill battle.
You're going to lose it eventually.
And then it'll become I think that's like anything, right? That's what will advance it the most is, unfortunately, war.
Yeah.
Because that is I think there's a statistic around that. I'm sure I could read to you, or I can put a little note in to say what the actual fact is. But I think the biggest technology advancements are always made during the times of most conflict.
True fact. So, interesting story. So, solar energy was actually, I think, created in 1901, 1902, something like that, and it was all geared up that we was going to be more solar efficient in the early 1900s. But then World War One happened, and then what happened then is all the materials, silicone, the metal, and everything were there to build tanks. And you know, particularly around World War One, World War Two, you think about Nazi Germany, around all these atrocities that kind of happened. But what also happened is a hell of a lot of R&D, a hell of a lot of advancements on what we can do in war to win the fight, right? Yeah. And a lot of it at that point was technological, better planes, better tanks, more kind of intelligent missiles. It's all stemmed from that. And even when you kind of fast forward, same thing has kind of happened with different things that happen from war, and then things that have changed our course and the way we've actually lived, like COVID. You know, there's so much technical advancement that happens when we don't know what to do with ourselves, or we're in a state of fight. And that's the scary kind of thing. And yeah, actually, I always think this is even the weirdest, scarier thing, is how is it we've kind of got to this point, and if humans have been here for hundreds of thousands of years or whatever it may be, why is it only in the past 124 years that it's become a thing?
Yeah.
And how quickly has that evolved?
Yeah, exactly.
Incredible. So, yeah, cybersecurity analysts.
Yeah, I think that'll be the next step. I think that'll be an interesting one.
Yeah, there's a couple others key mentions. Machine manager. I suppose actually that kind of makes sense. It's still engineering will still kind of exist, has to exist in terms of the manual putting things to kind of together until such a point. Well, let's face it, places like BMW do a lot of automation in their vehicles already. You know, they have robotic kind of warehouses where they just spits out a car now, but it still needs people to check it through, to maintain the equipment, etc., etc.
Yeah, exactly.
So how that will evolve is definitely something. Data detective. I just like the title.
Yeah, it's, I don't.
You don't?
No, I think data detective sounds a little bit. I don't know. It just sounds a little bit cringy to me. But
it is a little bit. Yeah. Do you remember Dick Tracy?
I know the name, but I don't remember I assumed he wore a fedora and a trench coat.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah.
I love that film. It was such an old film, but I just remember like he had this poxy little office, running around town trying to stop the mobsters and that kind of thing. And that was always my kind of idea of when I hear detective.
Yeah, that's what I always think. When
running around the back streets.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, that or Inspector Clouseau.
Yeah, Clouseau. I got his magnifying glass out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of that's where I go with it as well. Like an old, like a dimly lit, black and white, that's dimly lit, like noir.
Heavily smoking over like a table.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been here 15 years.
Yeah, just trying to catch like the killer, and it's got the stupidest title, like the Yo-Yo Killer,
that's
or like the Boomerang Bandit or something.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, all the mobsters.
Yeah, AI business strategist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Do you know the one that's not on here? Something that we've spoken about, creative, yeah, because AI can spit out some really cool stuff. I mean, I've seen it on TikTok all the time where it's like people put the prompt, but it all comes from what prompts you put in. Yes. I think that is how creative will go, rather than kind of saying that I need someone who can make it look like this. You'll still need those people, but someone that kind of goes, well, this is what it looks like in my mind, like a film director or Whereas a lot of people just kind of go, use it like Google almost, which I think it will replace.
Draw me a picture of a dog.
Yeah,
that's cool. Draw me a picture of a dog with a pizza on his head sitting on the sofa.
Yeah. But then you can kind of say like this for this market, and then really tailor it. And I think those people that can know how to kind of put the prompts in to get the results will be another area as well.
Yeah.
You'll still need those creatives because it will never be pitch perfect.
So the skills still exist, right?
But it's just evolving and evolutionising.
Evolutionising, yeah, we'll go with that.
What that kind of looks like. Yeah, I think the biggest worry for Gen Z particularly is it will change the landscape massively for those entry level jobs on how people get into work.
Yeah.
But I think what you'll find is that, like anything, as it becomes more and more normal, you'll just get used to it, and then people will evolve, and through school you'll end up going down that way, and people will create things that will now seem futuristic and out there, and then people will be looking back at this in 50 years going, look at those fossils, talking about chat GPT, talking about it like it was like a flip phone or a VCR.
So maybe we'll get the hoverboard after all.
Yeah, and it'll be an AI hoverboard.
Yeah, the AI one.
And it will know where you want to go.
Yeah.
Before you even know where you want to go.
Do you know what's interesting? And again, it's probably a bit of a segue, but you've seen...
nice pun there.
You've seen that, I think it is the PlayStation 2, it might be the new Meta Quest VR. Oh, and it is the new Apple Watch as well. A few of them are using more eye movement and this kind of thing. And I think it's the Google one where you can put a headset on and it visualises your dashboard for you. So it's Windows or Apple, whatever you use. And you literally look around the screen and it's tracking your eyes, so you know where you're looking, and you use your eyes to kind of click.
Yeah.
Have you seen this?
Yeah, I did. I watched a very quick clip of someone was playing the game, literally just by staring at it.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Yeah. We've seen this. And the new Apple Watch does it, doesn't it? We've seen this. So it's kind of got this clicking of the fingers motion, and it can like stop your alarms going off and that kind of stuff. You get a notification.
I have seen that. Yeah.
So it's all coming, but it's all done with like look and movement of your body, quite literally, to interact with technology.
Yeah. It'd be like when you see like the films and they're like,
that's it, Minority Report.
Yeah. I've always wanted to be able to do that, but mainly on Yvonne's laptop, which I forget isn't touchscreen when she's showing me something and she's like
poking it.
Yeah. fingerprints.
But either way, then, so again, we're looking at Gen Z's kind of coming through, and you're sitting there thinking, well, you're talking about all this stuff. Where does that still leave me? What skills then do I need to be able to get a job? There's a few transferables, and I don't think this will ever disappear. Problem solving and critical thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I think that should be a pace of life, right? You can't just completely rely on something. You've got to be able to figure out things yourself, and even if it is kind of putting prompts in and being a little bit more creative, that kind of stuff, and actually thinking about what is it I'm trying to actually solve and what's the best kind of solution. That's like a learn you can just use throughout life, right? In fact, kind of goes from very simplistic terms of like, this is how you don't burn your toast, all the way through this is how you build a car, and this is how you build like an entire platform that's going to make you billions on Bitcoin. It has to start with just that very easy, just, can I take a problem and fix it? Type of attitude, and I think that's really key. Communication, I think, unfortunately, the more we kind of get, and this is always spoken about as I was growing up, is that the more we've been connected, the more kind of apart we've become. And I don't think it's any coincidence that places like Facebook, Instagram, and all the social media platforms are quite happy to let your friend know what you're doing, but it never pings you to go, hey, you're literally down the road from them. You should go and grab a coffee with them, put the phone down for a second. Why doesn't it do that? Because it knows we're both close.
Yeah.
We knows we're friends. It's all there online. Then why isn't there a function to go, perhaps you guys just need some time just to have a chat and catch up rather than fuck around on like social media?
Yeah.
Doesn't like that, does it?
No.
So I think communication, just in terms of how you interact digitally but physically with other humans, is still completely has to have a place in the world.
Yeah.
Even just personally has to have a place in the world.
Yeah. And if it can create and carry out the processes that people do, then that is the bit that's missing. It's that communication piece of how does it all link together and how do we kind of put the strategy around it. Like
companies spend billions on business analysts, project managers, coordinators, administrators, all these individuals, communications experts, literally, between technology and the business. Because the business do their thing, the tech guys do their thing, and in between is this void. It's just void. You talk to a developer about how to code something, you have no idea. You're like, I don't know what you're talking about. I just don't. And you get clever so-and-so comes along and goes, this is what it means. Yeah, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
And there's the bridge. So I feel like that's kind of that, ultimately. He's been able to communicate the difference between technology and what's actually happening in the business setting or a human setting. And that's existed for a long, long time. So I think that's just an evolution. So communication, I think, is absolutely crucial in any kind of capacity.
Yeah.
Adaptability and continuous learning, I'd like to say that this is kind of something that is just happening whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It is quite bleak, but if you don't keep up with the times,
you will be left behind.
You will be left behind. You know, if
That's
you're someone,
thing.
yeah, if you're someone now that can't use a computer,
yeah,
you know, how do you apply for? You do just get left behind. So you
do.
need to adapt, and I think that will come through. And this probably leads quite nicely onto the next point, but this all comes through the education part of things as well, right?
Definitely, you're up.
Because I think kids nowadays are learning how to code in school.
Yeah, from a really early age.
Yeah.
Jake, he's like year 3, and they're already kind of touching on coding, what it means, how you do it from a super basic level.
Yeah,
but he's 7.
Yeah,
and they're doing that.
Well, when I was in school, and that was not that long ago. What, 7-8 years ago? It was
7, 8 years ago, Robbie.
Yeah, yeah, over half a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even then you kind of look at it like, well, it wasn't really a thing. It's some very basic stuff when you was in like year 10 or year 11, but it wasn't super in depth.
No. Do you know what? When I was in primary school, so that was like 30 years ago. Jesus Christ, I'm getting old. 30 years ago, they used to have a turtle that was programmed by a computer.
I thought it was going to say the turtle was a developer. I was like, well, I know what you're talking about.
Do you?
Yeah, I know, yeah.
So it's like a little turtle, and it had one computer. That was it. And it had this one turtle. Like, it couldn't have been wireless. It had to have had some sort of wire to it, I think. I can't remember that in depth of it. But I remember you got given the screen, and you could just program it to go up, left, right,
and down. Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, we were still doing that when I was in primary school.
Really?
Yeah.
The turtle.
But then you talk about when we go back to how quickly things evolve, right? Between 30 years and 20 years later.
Yeah.
Or 23 years later if you want to be specific. We're still
better about yourself, yeah.
We're still looking at a turtle going on a computer and programming a turtle to go round like a track.
Yeah.
I think it was to kind of put the program in.
That's it.
Whereas now you kind of go, Jake's in year 3, but another, however many years later, 10 years later, and now they're actually looking at how to code from year 3.
Yeah.
A very, very different level,
Completely different level. So that technical proficiencies is definitely kind of increasing, isn't it? I think need to start thinking about what this job could look like. So what skills you could need. I think schooling, the education system they are thinking about that. Universities already been thinking about this for a little while anyway, right? But what does that kind of look like? They're lucky because in an academic setting, they get funding for research and how that can actually benefit society. It's the whole point of the education system, right? Is to kind of build people up to go to work.
Yeah.
I've only really ever thought about that more recently, is to kind of go, that was what it's all there for. Because you're not a value society, are you? So they will have a huge part to play around the next generation kind of coming through and that kind of guidance. But if it was anything like my guidance, they have an idea, but they don't know all the answers.
No.
So you have to kind of weigh in a little bit here to kind of go, this is kind of the trends that are kind of happening. This is what I'm interested in. And this is how I think it could have size of value. And unfortunately, it's a bit of a luck game.
Yeah.
Really. But I think because it's such a huge thing nowadays and it is changing so rapidly, hopefully that communication will change and actually the roadmaps will be a bit clearer.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it needs to come from, and I know they're doing this already, but places like Google, these, at the massive scale, like a Meta, a Twitter, whoever it may be, need to support the education system as well to say, these are the roles that are in demand for us. These are the types of people. These are the skill sets that we need, and how can we kind of tutor that and train I'm just thinking about going for a beer with my mates and getting a kebab on the way home. Like, the last thing I'm thinking about is my entire, 20, 30 years time. So it needs to kind of almost come from not the top down, but
I suppose you come with the way from the world of work, right? What do you guys need? You're the ones using the technology. You're the ones that are kind of pioneering it. Open the box. So where we're going, and so how are the younger generation going to fit into that? There's a couple of companies here that we've got. IBM, they're committed to training 2 million learners in AI by 2026. Weirdly enough, my cousin's one of them. So really? he did he actually got a scholarship. Was it a scholarship? I think he got a scholarship from university to work for IBM. And now they've shipped him off to Australia, and he's working out there doing all AI machine learning for them. And he's one of those 2 million, I'm guessing. I thought he was quite special, but now he's one of 2 million. Maybe not so much.
Well, in the grand scheme of things, it's quite... Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, dude. I won't use your name, don't worry. But no, I think that's it. And Amazon, they're looking to invest up to 4 billion in AI startups as well, which is huge. And that's just a drop in the ocean for them, right? But 4 billion is still like a huge amount of money to kind of go, we're investing a lot into this. So they can clearly see that that's kind of where it's kind of going. So you're getting to get the support from companies to actually help younger people find jobs. Yeah. So they need it as well. Yeah. Because unfortunately for any company, it has a bell curve. It does really, really well and it peters off. People come in, they go out. They get older, they retire. If you're lucky. So they have to continue evolving. Otherwise it just shuts down. It just be like a Sony Walkman. That'll be it.
Googling a Sony Walkman.
Hey?
No, I know what a Sony Walkman is.
I
did have a Sony Walkman.
I was about to say, do I have to explain this? Yeah. So no, I think it is. It's a really interesting way of the world at the minute. What about a typical work day? I mean, this is going really deep into it, but it could easily be more focused around, I suppose, a lot of data mining, right? Logging in, understanding exactly what's kind of going on. Because I'm guessing AI would continue to go 24 hours a day. So what you might still do a 9 to 5 job, the AI will just continue going. So here's the thing. So does this actually really mean, all this means that we're just trying to keep up with something that's more intelligent than us? Yeah. Does it? Is that kind of it? Because if we need ethics guys, trainers, people to interpret, to communicate, and it's ever evolving, ever changing, always on, are we just saying we're now just keeping up? Is that what we're doing? Is that where we've got to?
Yeah, rather than leading, we're now following it. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting, isn't it? I think that's why it's so important then that there is this synergy between people and technology, and there's the fear. Is it friend or foe? I don't think we even have an answer for that.
No. Unfortunately.
Let that hang for a minute.
Yeah.
Is it a job stealer though, Robbie?
I don't think it's a job stealer.
No.
I think there will be jobs that will be made redundant from AI, but I don't think it's specifically stealing jobs. It will just be how they use it will be different, because at the end of the day, we'll still need someone to monitor it and manage it. And even if it does mean that, do you know what? If you're an entry level person coming into the business, while you're not having to sit there and do the data entry or the admin work that the AI can now do, you're just checking the results to make sure that everything is okay and it's not going off piece. It's kind of sticking to what it needs to be doing and the results are right. And maybe it means that, do you know what, when you come into a business, you are just shadowing a lot more. You're not just sort of thrown into the deep end, kind of earning your stripes that way by grabbing the teas and coffees and kind of doing all the admin work that no one else wants to and kind of being the office lackey. You're kind of just understanding exactly what the business works, how different functions work. Yeah. And then just checking what AI is already doing.
Yeah. I think if anything, it should just help us become more efficient with the world of work. And when you think about it, it's quite wrong the way we've got this. You sign a contract with a company and they go, right, you're going to give me 37 or 40 hours a week of your time for a full-time job, and I'm going to pay you X amount of money for that. But how efficient are you in those 37, 40 hours of the week? Really? Back before COVID, I would say when I really think about it, probably not so much. COVID was different because you could then do back-to-back meetings every 15 to 30 minutes and you could bang out 10 meetings rather than one. So the efficiencies there were very good, but actually from a mental health perspective was awful. And lots of people have suffered because of that burnout more earlier than they ever have done. But I wonder, and Devriti and I had this conversation the other day, is that you could get AI to help you in your business to such a point where you are just efficient in your job and work less.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with it in my mind, is maybe this whole work-life balance thing that is always a conversation. It's just, you don't need to work as much.
No.
You can come in at 11
and be just more efficient
and be done at 4.
Yeah. Because I always read these books around the 4-hour working week and like the power of like focus, like 1 hour of focus time compared to like 6 hours of like being distracted and all these kind of things. And there is loads of logic there, tons of logic. And I think if AI could do anything, it would help. I think if it can help structure data in a more efficient and digestible way, people will be more efficient.
Yeah.
Because I definitely feel that way. You get pinged by a million different things at the minute, and it's data everywhere. It's even like the BD stuff that we're trying to do in marketing, and we even talked about it, didn't we? To say our data is so unstructured. It's everywhere. It's spreadsheets, it's CRM systems, it's on social media platforms, it's messages, it's everywhere. It's not in just
People's
one
heads,
succinct.
it's on
It's in here, but it's not succinct. But imagine a world where, like you say, it could be 11 till 2, 11 till 4, whatever, and it could be just 4 days a week. Because the AI is doing everything else it needs to, and you're just efficient in that time. You get paid the same, but you're just more efficient, and you're on. And the rest of the time, you have your balance.
Yeah.
I can see that world.
Yeah.
That's the world I'd like to live in. To be like, you've got hobbies, families, personal things you want to do, go traveling, see the world, do all the cool shit that people say you should do, and still earn, and still be efficient, and still be an asset to society.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'd like to see it going.
Yeah, I do. I think it's, you kind of flip the mentality of, I'm not giving you my time for money, I'm giving you my output for money. I'm
giving you my efficiency. You give me.
You know, we've always said this. If you say if you said to marketing team, for example, I need 10 inbound leads by the end of the week. If you said once you've got that, you can go.
Yeah.
But then I think there's always this thing of, well, no, I'm paying you for your time.
Well, it's an old thing, right?
You know, which I think the way that the world's going, where things are more remote, it's more work-life balance. It's like, just do your job, and then when it's done, you'll get paid the same. You can go.
Yeah.
And if it takes you 4 hours,
Great.
it takes you 4 hours. If it takes you 6 hours, it takes 6 hours. If it takes you an hour,
yeah.
You know,
I think that's the point, isn't it? The point is that it won't take you 6 hours.
No.
It's because you've got all the tools there. It'll only take you 1 or 2. You know, and this is exactly where I need you focused. I need you here to do this specific thing, because you've got everything around you, all the data's in front of you. It's all sequenced, succinct. It's all structured for you. All I need you to do is your part of it, and that's it. And what do you do then for the rest of the time?
Yeah.
Go and play football. Go to the gym. Go and spend time with family. You know, I think that's kind of where I could see that happening in our industry quite a lot.
Yeah, well, it's no different. It's kind of already where the construction industry is to a degree, right? You don't, you say, all right, I'll put the builder on a day rate, and you say, yeah, that job's going to take 4 weeks. And you say, I'll put you on a price job, and I go, well, I could probably knock it out in 2.
I could be more efficient.
I can be more efficient. I can do it in 2 weeks. It's like, what would you prefer?
Yeah.
You know, if the quality is the same.
That's usually what happens, isn't it? There's like a weird kind of formula around that, around time, quality, price.
Yeah, but if you want it done fast and you want it done
cheap,
it's going to be
bad quality.
Yeah, if you want it, it's the triangle, isn't it?
Yeah, and if
you can't have all three. If
you want high quality and you want it done fast, it's expensive.
Yep.
And if you want
high quality but low price, it'll take time. Yeah.
So there's always something. It's going to cost you something, whether you like it or not. It's probably true of many things. Building is definitely one of those. Yeah. It's quite clear as day, because like you say, get a builder to say, I need this done in a fortnight. They go, no worries, I'll get a couple more guys on it, we'll knock it out, but it's going to cost you a lot more money if you want the quality. If you try to knock it out to a point, you can do that.
Yeah. If you just
get it done cheaply.
Yeah.
So I think that mentality definitely still exists. But efficiencies, I think that's kind of what AI should be thinking about, and it's how can AI help us to be more efficient but not burn us out. And it's not to say they can just kind of ping us tons of leads, because then you're in the same bloody boat and you're working more hours, and it's just greed at that point.
Yeah, I think it's not. I agree. AI is not just there to do more.
Yeah,
it's not just more. It's about better quality and being able to refine it so that you're not spending a lot of time doing a lot of that.
Yeah,
mundane admin heavy tasks that typically people say, I don't want to do that. That's the stuff I don't enjoy. And actually having conversations, and at least in our game, it's the people side of things that you can't really, at this, until maybe in 10 years we'll be going, recruitment's not even a thing because someone's got an AI that can take the CEO's voice and face and interview people, and
I know.
doesn't even, you don't even need to be there at all. But yeah, at least at the moment, that relationship piece will be super important. I think the companies that will thrive the most are the ones that utilise technology, utilise AI, adapt with it, but then still keep that human relationship side of things.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's kind of the way I can see it going. And I think you can start very simply around just like data visualization and just better structured data. I think that's kind of a really easy point, because once you've kind of got something like we've found with like a ChatGPT, once it's got something to work with, it evolves and it changes and adapts. And I think that's the idea, right? Is that yes, it can be scary, yes, it can take over, but okay, let's kind of knock that for one side for 1 second. But what if it could actually make it clearer? What if it could communicate in a far better way than we ever thought of done, and it just helped with efficiency completely?
That's
a more brighter kind of future, rather than the scaremongering that goes around the unknown. There you go.
Yeah,
that is my 2 pence on AI. Do you know what? I feel like I had more to say on it than I think, whether or not it's right, wrong, or indifferent. I suppose no one really knows, but I feel like there was a lot of logic there.
Yeah, great.
So, but I think if you are in like a state of school, university, college, and thinking like, where is this all going to go? You're lucky, because no one does. No one knows. So don't worry about that.
Yeah,
it's more thinking about what can you control. You can control your effort and interest into something. Focus is probably the big part of it at the moment, if you are definitely kind of there, because it is a very crazy world when you get into work. And like we say, we've got big players that want to kind of keep investing in AI, and they're looking for bright sparks that want to be good problem solvers that can communicate well at a base level. You give me the most intelligent kid in the room, doesn't mean you're going to get the best job.
No,
it is more those kind of, and I know that's the wrong word, and we've learned about this around softer skills, but that's kind of things that you can work on. And that's where society will end up kind of pulling it through, as long as the interest is kind of there. So I don't think you have to worry too much.
No.
I'd be more worried if I was in a printing company back in the 80s and the internet kind of come along, like a marketing agency, that kind of stuff. That was detrimental to everything. Killed an industry overnight, almost.
Yeah, no, exactly.
We're not talking about that. We're just talking about evolution of things. So there you go, Bruce. Anything more to add on this subject? We've been going forever, I think, haven't we?
Yeah, not for me.
Not from me, no. I really like it. I really enjoyed this conversation. I think it's definitely something that we maybe will listen back on this kind of podcast and go, what on earth are we talking about?
Yeah, we might be 100% right. We might not even be here to talk about it. AI might be doing their own podcast and
super impersonating our voices.
Yeah, there you go.
Brilliant one, Robbie. Thank you so much for your time with that one today. I'm sorry for everyone in the room that it's taken me actually a lot longer to get this one recorded. I have that on the record as well. This is not our last episode of the season, though, is it?
No.
So we've got one more to go, I believe.
Yeah, that'll be a 20th episode, and it's on Agile Minds.
Agile
Agility
Minds.
in talent management.
Agile Minds.
Agile Minds. Okay, let's get our heads around that one.
Yeah, episode 20 to finish us off for the year and for the season.
2023 complete.
Wow.
There we go. Lovely, mate. Thank you.
We've only just got the mics working.
Yeah, well, we've mastered it, I feel like hopefully people agree that if you've got this far into the podcast, you're still listening, that it sounds a lot better than it did on the first podcast. And that's if you've listened to it all 18 at this point, which if you have, congratulations.
Yeah. There you go.
All right, mate. Well, until next time, thank you very much, everyone, for your time, and thank you for listening.